Time to break the internet. The collab you've asked for, Caleb Hammer.
Brian, I am so excited about this because we got to sit down with Caleb and do something so fun.
We flipped the script and we audited Caleb Hammer, but only the way the money guy could. You are known everywhere, and we're super excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me on your show.
And I love that you're going to let us do something that you normally get to do. You're normally the guy that audits other people. And he said, hey, you know what? I want to sit on the other side of the table. I want to know what you guys think. Tell me what you think about what I have going on, because it sounds like the last 18, 24 months have been kind of crazy, right? Like it's been an exciting ride, right?
I'm getting double team financial audit.
I love it.
First time money guys trained being ran on me. So yeah.
Well, that's a weird way to say it, but okay, I'll take it.
No, this is going to be positive. I think my guess at the end of this, you're going to be like, I need more of that. That's my goal anyway. And I want to go ahead and let you know this beautiful thing. Financial order of operations. If you perform well enough, Caleb, I'm going to share with you 2 laminated things that we have brought for you, because we all know everything laminated feels more permanent. And if anybody needs something like that, I feel like we ought to pay it forward. I do want to know, here's the big things. You've had so much change. Boja has talked about it the last 18 months. You've been on a rocket ship.
Yeah.
So give us kind of a layout. What do you think the next few years look like for you? And then we're going to kind of hone this into some additional questions to give you some direction as well.
That's the hard question for YouTube channels, isn't it? Because you never know what the algorithm is going to change. You never know how things are going to happen. Next few years, I mean, I would love to be doing this. I'd love to grow the business. I'd love to do extra shows. We're looking at getting a bigger studio where we can host some more shows. And that's what I would love the next couple of years to be like. YouTube channels, they can go whoop, boop.
Yeah.
So guaranteed, no. But I think we could have a solid 3 years out of the show.
Well, what I think is wonderful is so many people find that same thing. Like if I'm in a job right now and the job's going real well, they say, oh, well, I don't know the next year or 3 years or 5 years are going to be the same. But what's interesting is as circumstances change, people don't necessarily, right? Like people kind of stay relatively the same. Talk to us a little bit before YouTube, before all this crazy stuff that happens. How would you describe you as an individual for like your saving and spending behavior?
Yeah.
Like, are you a saver, spender? How'd that play out before the YouTube thing?
Saver and spender definitely before YouTube, but go back a decade ago, and I needed someone to have the conversation with me that I have with everyone on a weekly basis, or that you're about to have with me. That's the conversation I needed, because I was this is your show, so I'm going to hold my normal potty mouth down. But I was a piece of poo when it came to saving money and spending money. I was student loan debt and getting a family loan so I could put a down payment on a car debt, and private student loans and 3 credit cards. I don't know. It's been a long time now, but mostly just McDonald's swipes and an iMac that's financed. That actually one of my employees still uses it. So I mean,
it kind of worked out.
Yeah, but that was like 10 years ago. And even I opened my first credit card at 18 so I could get a digital piano.
Well, why you do that? That makes all the sense in the world, right?
I am not blaming my mom who has seen this. I love you. They've learned a lot about finance. I talked to them a lot about finance, and they've become really good. But she was like, yeah, everyone should get a credit card at that time. Just get it. Put it on a credit card, because that's the normal average American way.
That's what the American does.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
so
exactly right.
Piece of crap when it comes to that 10, 11 years ago. But come like 6 years ago, I really started to fall into the financial literacy area. I started getting into the overall finance side of things via Bigger Pockets when it comes to real estate. So I got interested in real estate, and you start heading down that path. You start headed down almost the personal finance side, because obviously you got to take control of that to get into the real estate part. So just being introduced to different YouTubers, different books, different podcasts from there has been a big pull for me that got me to the point of just wanting to learn anything and everything I could for personal finance, so I could get myself out of debt, so I could set myself up for financial freedom, so that I could have a place to live that I own and have retirement set up so that I'm not dying on the Walmart floor, as we often say on this show. So
you just covered a lot of ground, but I want to I want to hone it in, because you said something just a few seconds ago about you're worried, you see channels that go up like this, but then they fall right back down. What are the financially speaking, what are your 3 biggest concerns? Because I want to make sure, this is something we're always trying to figure out, is what are the things that give you insecurity, with your money decisions? What are some of the biggest things you worry about? Is it that the channel goes away? What are your concerns?
Well, the income side of it, the business income side of it. 2 people, quit their career paths at companies to come work for me full time. I feel a big piece of responsibility to make sure that they're taken care of, they can pay rent, and that they're contributing to retirement and everything. So that is like the biggest pressure on, and we're looking at renting a studio as well, like a larger studio. So that's going to add an extra line item, and you really can't get into commercial real estate that's like less than 3 years, 2 years if you really, you're committing hard. So that's a big concern for me. My next biggest concern would be, what am I going to do if it, when the algorithm plays out or whatever it could be for the lifespan of the YouTube,
like
what's my cash flow? So right now my goal is everything other than a little bit of fun money spending. I just want to turn it into cash flow opportunities. And I actually have some interesting things to bring up when we get to that. Some moves that I'm considering. I
like moves.
Especially since like my senior year of high school, we were getting foreclosure notices on our house.
Oh, wow.
And everything like that really puts in perspective of where I want to be, where I've come from. We weren't necessarily doing bad, but I think we'll definitely start a lower middle class in terms of dad being a gas station clerk and my mom being a front desk person at like an eye place. She went back, got a nursing degree. She ended up doing well with that. And my dad's business has taken off recently. So the youngest brother, he's living the life.
I'm about to say, he's not doing the same thing that you had to go through.
Yeah, but where I come from, though they made it look like through the shield of debt, that is a classic middle class lifestyle. I didn't need to want for anything, nothing like that, but
just fake it.
You see it later on, taking out second mortgage, taking out all the credit cards, putting everything on financing. I want to make sure I don't, if I ever have kids, that's not where I want to be. I don't want them to feel the stress.
Feel the same thing that you felt.
Yeah.
That's great.
What are you hoping to get out of today? What's the biggest thing? You're like, man, when you knew you had the Money Guy team showing up, was there anything that you're like, I hope at the end of this, I'll at least have this figured out? Even fast forward to a year down the road, if we could lay some steps on you, are there any things that you have that you were hoping we could cover today?
I mean, you guys have been very successful in terms of just helping other people manage their finances. And, my main focus has been helping people get out of debt, get their emergency fund, and take control of that part of their life. Getting a second and third opinion, I guess, out of my overall financial situation now that my life has just been turned completely upside down this last year, making sure I'm being smart, making sure I'm going down the right path and setting myself up for success. I mean, that's critical. And then if there's anything that I'm doing now that I need to take control of and change, because, it's been a big change like overnight. So that's hard to deal with. It wasn't like a slow increase. It was like we went, boop.
No, you're in the deep end quick. That's exactly what. So, Bo, because you just said cash reserves. Bo and I had a lot of conversations. I couldn't figure out, is Caleb got 3 months covered? Has he got 6 months?
Okay.
Can you walk us through what your cash reserves in your mind? I don't want to give your private information out, but I do want to kind of know, what do you have covered with your cash reserves?
So I have in my business checking account, and this is not enough anymore. This is what it was at the beginning that someone recommended at the size we were, $25,000.
For the business.
That's what I have minimum in there, like before any distributions or anything. That's just within the business checking account. So way too small for where we're at today. I again haven't adjusted to the quick change and bringing on employees and everything like that. I always have minimum $50,000 in my checking account.
That's for you personally?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, does it make sense for that to be double the business? I don't know, but I mean that covers me for a solid 6-9 months. I have 200. I have more than.
Wait a minute. You said that covers you 6 to 9 months. I know for a fact your mortgage doesn't. Your mortgage is more than that.
Yeah, that's $7,000.
I know public math is a scary thing, so I always give the calculators too.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean it would cover what I need to do for the mortgage for 6 months.
What about food?
Well,
What about the folks sitting over here? They by the way,
they'll cover it for 7 months, but I need to lose weight anyways.
So it's really, really interesting. As you sent us over all your stuff, it was great because now we have like a really great insight. Tell us a little bit though. It seems like because you even are talking about, okay, I've got this money in the business checking account, but then these are my expenses. Do you have everything completely separate? Like, do you have all of your like if I asked you, hey, what's your monthly burn rate for the business?
Yeah,
you give me
good
that
question.
number. And then I said, hey, what's the personal Caleb burn rate? Because we see small business owners all the time that they get started and all you're trying to do at the very beginning is just make sure this thing works, right? Yeah. And we don't always segregate things quite as cleanly as we could. Do you feel like you have a solid grasp where your business has a separate set of financials, a separate set of expenses, a separate set of income tracking that is unique and distinct from Caleb, or is it kind of all meshed in together with one?
We're definitely getting a lot better at it now. I only formed an LLC 8 months ago or so. So, I mean, even within the first quarter of this year, there's some overlap and there's still some ongoing subscriptions that I've on my personal side that are business that I just haven't flipped over yet. And I'm pretty good about using my business card for only business things. I think I've seen a couple slip through just, crap, that was on my Apple Pay. Yeah. I didn't mean for that to happen. So it's definitely better separated now. There's always more progress to make, but I've made a lot of progress from when I first formed the LLC.
Before we get into structural stuff, I wanted to kind of, and I'm not trying to come back, but I just want to make sure I get you in a good place with the cash.
Oh, sure.
I know this thing has grown like a rocket ship. And as your income has exploded, I know there's this thing called tax liability that's building up in the background. Are you making estimated tax payments, or are you caught up on that part of it, or are you supposed to be running a big cash buffer so that you can write a check in April? How are you handling that?
That's how I'm going to be doing it, because it's like the first full year. So next year I'm going to be doing quarterly. Right now, these are a little out of date because I wanted you to have the same documents as the Graham Stephan audit on my channel, just because it would be interesting to see how you guys compare and everything. Yeah. So it's at about 200,000 in a SoFi high yield savings. That's for my taxes set aside. Now it's about 300.
Okay, good. So so when you gave us the numbers of 25 for the business, 50 personal, you were just carving out that 300 doesn't count.
I did a big, and I've done a big catch up these last couple of months on
that. Makes me feel so much better. Because I was just worried because I as a public accountant who did a lot of tax prep, one of the worst things that I would see with small business owners, they start getting traction, they start making money, and then I do their tax returns, and then I tell them, hey, you owe the government $100,000, $150,000. They're like, what? And they just finally feel like the sky has parted, and now here I am telling them. And then when they don't have the money because they bought a big piece of equipment or something else, it's a disaster. So that makes me happy that you've got that carved out. That's good on you.
Yes, sir.
When you say you want to be able to provide for yourself, no matter what happens with YouTube, well, one of the ways you do this, you have to know like what you're spending. So do you actually know your monthly burn rate? Like this is what it keeps to keep the household running, mortgage, utilities, food, the things that I want to spend money on. What's that number for you? What's that monthly? Like, here's how much it costs me to do the things I want to do the way I want to do them on my time.
The way I want to do them?
The way you want to do them.
Oh, okay. Because I know my minimum, like if I could aggressively cut back everything to about $8,500 a month. I know you see the mortgage payment is $8,000, but that's what I put towards it. It's $7,000 something actually that's required. So I could do that in terms of.
But even if you cut that down there, you could live off $1,000 a month. Like you could, if you outside of the mortgage, $1,000 a month would cover the lifestyle that you would want to live.
My lifestyle hasn't really increased too much. I think one of the most expensive things I've done this year so far is I'm going to a music festival in a few weeks that costs $300.
I think you can afford to do that.
I think you're going to be okay.
Now, I do have to challenge.
I don't do things that much.
I know, and look, we just came up on the studio.
Yeah.
Beautiful speakers. Boxes in the trash can. We walk in, beautiful speakers. And I couldn't help but notice when I was looking at this statement, because it was very much, because I'm a gadget freak. I love gadgets. I love wearables. I love sound systems. I was going to ask you, do you have a subwoofer in the Jeep? I mean, because I'm never the feeling you probably do.
Okay, never mind. I unknowingly lied. When I bought this house, I put money into it to make the space I wanted to make it, but that's not an ongoing.
That's a one time.
So what you saw, that was definitely me sitting at my record.
And I'm not calling you out on that. It's just, but I saw
which is fair.
Could that all go away to where you really could live off $1,000 to $1,500 plus the mortgage payment?
I've done my last project that I feel I need to do to make the house what I wanted it to be. There's things I want to do, but they don't need to be a thing. Like I upgraded an Apple Watch. That's not a house thing, but I upgraded an Apple Watch. Did not need to do that. Don't need to do that. So I mean, I spend a little bit on fun when it comes to my income. It's a very small percentage, but It's something that if it dropped down to like $9,000 a month, 9,500, 800 or 8,500, like I would be happy cutting back and just living the lifestyle that I've lived essentially my entire life, because I haven't upgraded my car. I have no intention to.
But your goal is not to get to a point where you can live that lifestyle. Your goal is to get to the point where you live the lifestyle you want to live. So what's that number? Like, hey, here's to do the things I want to do. Saying. What is that number? Because you're past the point of trying to figure out what your bare minimum is. Now you're at the point, you've had some success. How do I replicate this? How do I build up a base large enough that can support me even if the income goes away? And that's the number we want to figure out that we're trying to replace.
Okay, dream cash flow on a monthly basis. Yeah. Dream cash flow, $50,000 a month.
$50,000 a month.
Dream cash flow. Okay. What I'm trying to shoot to for my goal is $25,000 a month.
Okay, great. So $300,000 a year.
Yeah,
that's great.
And then how much is your business burn rate? Because Bo asked you that, but I know because I could sense the heaviness of you carry the weight of your employees, but also now you're going to take the commitment of rent and other things. What do you feel like you're spending a month on the business?
Right now we're spending a lot on the business, but that's because I want, so the burn rate isn't something that needs to be the burn rate, and I'll explain. So as the channel does better, when people come in, we give them a higher rate for traveling here and saying thank you. Sure. If the channel decreases, we give them a lower rate. Okay. A lot of the money, they both make over six figures a year. Right. And I want to do that because I make good money, the channel makes good money, they make good money. Right. If the channel makes less, they're going to make less. So, I mean, other than them, which are expensive right now, I could do the channel on almost no money because everything's done right here. So that's just in my own personal income. We talked about getting that studio. And then I could do, I love you guys and don't want to get rid of you. That's not what I am saying. I could get away with both of their positions being hired in Austin for about $80,000 in total. Got it. If I wanted a year.
If I could push on one thing, is that I would encourage you, because I also feel the weight of employees, but I love it. It's also my favorite thing because the more people I have, it just is very fulfilling when you know these people through something you're creating is paying for people to have cars, houses, families, and everything else. Yeah. It is incredible, but it does have a lot of responsibility. I'd rather you fatten the cash up so you don't have to throw out, because I've had Bo was one of my first real employees, and we had in 2008 and 9, I did have to tell him, hey, if the market goes down anymore, I'm not going to fire you because I love you, but we're going to renegotiate your pay. But what I've learned through my, the decades of owning a business, if I just carry fat on extra cash, I don't have to have those uncomfortable conversations because I can hopefully weather out whatever's coming. And your 25,000 in the business is pretty lean.
It is.
And that, because it probably scares the heck out of them too, to hear you talk that, man, I don't want to, but I would. Whereas as you mature in this and as it stabilizes, just run fat on cash. And a lot of people think that having extra cash is wasteful because cash is trash. But even right now, cash makes 5%. Or around 5%, but also as you're getting into, because you're about to rent studio space.
Yes.
But if you can run fat on cash, when real estate has struggles and other things, you're going to find an opportunity where you can buy commercial real estate and then start paying rent to yourself for your own studio, like we've had run into. And so cash is actually a tremendous wealth builder. So don't walk away from boosting what cash can actually do in your wealth journey too. That's why. So I run really fat on cash, just to make sure that I can cover the employees, cover my family, and then if things just bad, I still got enough, a little slack in the system to be okay. And I think that's good advice for anybody.
Yeah, from your investigation, into the business and the personal, what would you recommend that fat cash be at a minimum?
I mean, because you have multiple employees now and independent contractors that you're doing. And so I've seen, and I think it's great that you're very generous with rewarding them, but that probably because they're both in six figures plus the rent you're going to be taking on. I mean, it needs to be six figures. I mean, it really does.
So minimum 100.
I think at the very minimum, that would be you taking a pretty severe pay cut. So I think once you factor in rent and that sort of thing, I think you could probably have to be closer to maybe $200,000 of cash just to stay in the business. Because what we're trying to figure out is, okay, no matter what happens, algo changes, some negative publicity, whatever that thing is, for the next 6 months, even with suppressed revenue, I can cover all the obligations that I have while I'm trying to figure things out. Because what we've seen in our experience where business owners get themselves in trouble is that it's not when, or it's not if bad things are going to happen, it's when and how prepared are they for that. So if you can give yourself 6 months to cover that, you are going to be cunning and crafty enough to figure out how to rebound. You just got to get through that 6 month period, and you want to have enough cash that you can do that.
Plus, I love you having multiple six figures, and the fact that if you get to tax time and your CPA is going to be like, hey, man, Uncle loves you this year because you're going to owe so much in taxes. But guess what? If you can make a contribution to this, the government will fund 40% of it, and you're like, man, I'm glad I'm running fat on cash.
Yeah.
Or you get to and somebody comes to you, like, because Rebe, our creative director, sitting right over there. We're hiring a new employee, need new computers, or we're buying a new piece of equipment or a camera. If you run, you just don't have to worry about the scarcity mindset, because you said something earlier that I was like, Caleb doesn't realize it's never going to get cheaper. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, this is never getting cheaper. And that's a good thing, because success is going to keep building, stacking to where your $200,000 to $300,000 of cash I want you to run is going to turn into where you're eventually going to be running $600,000, $800,000. And people listening be like, this is insane that he's saying this, but I promise you, it will pay off in tremendous dividends as you continue to build on this enterprise. And there's still, because now I think this is probably a good time, Bo, because I had a hard time when we looked at all your numbers to know, I know your income, and maybe you even have a hard time. Your income is shot up, but I could see where you're basically dumping in like 6-figure contributions to your investment accounts, but I couldn't tell how much of this is automatic or is just like you look at the account and be like, holy cow, there's a lot of money there. Let's transfer some over to my investment account. Yeah. What we couldn't figure out what you're saving as a percentage of your gross income whatsoever. And
ultimately we have to break it down. Like we just talked about a lot of the risk management stuff. Cash, that's all risk management. But you said, hey, my goal is I want to get to where I can spend $25,000 a month. I've got enough to support me to do that. And so while income is flush, what steps are you taking? What buckets are you saving? I think that's the question you're asking. What buckets are you saving into on a monthly basis to work towards that?
Okay. Just to address the last point real quick, I'm going to make it the goal for the business at the end of the year. By January 1st, I have $200,000.
Love it. That's great.
So that'll be my goal.
And I think 50, based on your 8,500, if 85 is your baseline personally, I think $50,000 to $60,000 personally in cash probably makes a lot of sense.
Cool. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, what I've been doing for myself, a lot of it until recently where things have changed and I can discuss, has just been throwing, after I stopped investing into some properties in my hometown because just rates have just been ridiculous and I wanted to see where the market was going a bit there. I've just been throwing everything into the stock market. In terms of percentage of income, the way I do it is like, I sit down at the end of the month and I'm like, okay, too much money came in. I don't understand it. It's a number that doesn't really exist. I'm just going to throw it all into my overall portfolio. And usually I break it down by mostly S&P 500, a little bit of NASDAQ as well. But
all those NASDAQ companies are in the S&P 500 also.
Sorry. Well, I know
a lot of, we'll talk about more of that in a second.
We'll get into this in a minute because we're going to pick on you a little bit because there's some fun stuff in here. There's some really fun stuff.
I like the extra, because my QQQs have been incredible. Well, actually, these last few weeks have been
first 6 months of the year.
It's
they were
been a
rocking
fun 6 months.
Yeah.
So I put like 30% into that, 70% into the S&P 500.
Awesome.
And I was mixing it up with some more international. Some at one point I ended up switching this. So I don't think it's going to be seen on yours. Even Graham recommended that I put a little in international, and I had some more mutual funds and stuff. And I think I have a few leftovers there, but not much is in them.
But bring it back to percentage. We want to know percentage of gross income. I feel like we're dancing here.
Sorry. You're right. So of what came in on the month that you guys have seen in terms of running the business, paying out monies and stuff like that was about 31%. And then 51.8% went into investing. Debt payments, which is mostly, it's actually pretty much all on real estate, went to
But if I'm questioning you on this,
sure.
Caleb, you did a 6-figure transfer.
Yeah.
And I imagine that didn't come in all
it was 2
at once.
months.
So this is so that's 2 months. So does that mean you're saving 15%? Or is that because you said you did 31%?
51%.
51%.
50. That was of the money that went out of my account.
So if that was 2 months, that would be around 25%.
And because here's what we're trying to figure out, right?
Ding, ding, ding. I like that number.
I'm going to do some really easy math for you. You said your goal is to be able to live off of $25,000 a month. Real simple math, $25,000 a month times 12 is going to be $300,000.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out, okay, what steps are you taking to move towards a portfolio that can sustain that long term or move towards an asset base? So if you use a very conservative safe withdrawal rate of like 4%, divide 300,000.
Haven't we switched it to 3 these days?
Okay. Hey, let's use 3. Let's be conservative and use 3. You're talking about $10 million. You're talking about somewhere between probably $6 million to $10 million that you're trying to get saved up as quickly as possible. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
That's the goal that you're trying to get to. So you're saying that right now you think realistically, based on the income you have coming in, you're saving 25 to 30% consistently on a monthly basis.
Minimum.
Okay.
What accounts, when you think about how you're saving that, is that going into? Like, are you doing 401ks, Roth IRAs, SEP IRAs? Like how are you saving those dollars?
I did my backdoor Roth towards the beginning of the year. So, I mean, that was just finished, 6,500. And after that, I focused, beginning of the year, I did a focus on real estate. Then I did a focus on saving up in taxes. And then I did a focus on getting to $500,000 in the overall stock market, which put the net worth over about a month ago over $1 million, which was exciting. So
yeah.
Millionaire, yay!
Yeah, welcome.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. It's
your
worth
age,
celebrating. That's a huge thing to celebrate.
Incredible. It truly is. I mean, I just see so much potential. I do. This is where the CPA in me comes out is, do you like paying taxes?
Well, does anybody like paying taxes?
Of course, the answer is no. And I want, because I know that the thing I didn't see, and I see this with a lot of entrepreneurs, you have all this money coming in, and pretty much, yes, you did the backdoor Roth.
Yeah.
But as a percentage of what you actually have going on, it's cool. It's good from a planning standpoint, but it just doesn't move the needle that much.
Yeah.
The government is basically begging employers, hey, set up retirement plans for your employees. And guess what? I'll reward you by letting you just stash chunks of money and then take a big tax deduction to where in all effective means the government's funding 40% of your retirement.
Yeah.
Have you done, because I didn't see a SEP IRA, because typically when I deal with entrepreneurs, you see a progression. You see them go SEP IRA or a solo 401k because they don't have employees. But as soon as they had employees, a lot of times they used to do simple 401k, simple IRAs, but those have been kind of replaced. Those are like gone the way of dinosaurs. So then you see full 401ks with like a safe harbor 3% match for your employees, but you get to load it up. And we could add some new comparability testing and other things. And then if that goes well, you add profit sharing, and then you add cash balance plans. Where are you at on that? Because I haven't seen any of that stuff. Yeah,
absolutely.
In here.
So, I mean, just a little bit of context. As we just been building so quick in such a short amount of time. I just got them on W-2. They were contracted originally, got them on W-2. So the next step is to set up an internal, or an entire retirement plan that I can contribute to. Why I didn't pursue that for myself on like a solo 401k is because I didn't know 100% what I wanted to do with the cash at that point. Wanted to throw it in the market. I was okay with the risk when it came to that overall situation, but I didn't know if I wanted it to go to real estate or stay in the stock market. And that's where the fun thing I want to show you.
But you realize like $22,500 of a salary deferral into a solo 401k, right? If you're an LLC or solo proprietor or whatever, that's going to save you like $8,000 to $10,000 in taxes off the front end, right? So like even though you're putting in $22,500, like $8,000 is coming from Uncle Sam, right? Like that's the part that gets so exciting. And I don't think it inhibits you from being able to still fund real estate. And we're gonna talk about the real estate and some of the thought process there. But it is one of the absolute number one best ways to legally hide money from the government for business owners. And even now that you have W-2 employees, it really doesn't change the mathematics all that much, because there are amazing plans you can put in place that are still great for you, the business owner, and a benefit for your employees that aren't like cost prohibitive. I would be willing to wager right now that the tax benefit that you would accrue would cover substantially more than what you're going to pay to administer the plan, as well as what you're going to put in for your employees' behalf. Meaning you will save more in taxes day one to fund everything else. So then it's all gravy money after that.
That's why I love this conversation. I'm glad we're doing this right now, because I've focused for years so much on just the personal finance aspect side of things.
Yeah.
I never really thought I would be a business owner. So that side of it never really interested me in terms of learning every little loophole behind the scenes when it comes to business. So that is, I'm playing catch up on that dramatically.
And I want to go a little deeper on something I saw.
Do it.
And I feel like a doctor here, because I was like,
here comes the train, choo choo.
please don't let this be the answer. And so we sent you some follow-up questions. And when I was Caleb, what accounting software are you running your business off of? Do you mind sharing with our audience?
Technically, QuickBooks.
Wait a minute. No, I know. That is not what you told us.
That's not what I said.
That is not what you told us. And that's not what showed up here.
I do it myself on Google Sheets, but I have everything.
What was that?
On Google Sheets.
Google Sheets.
Again, this is no longer the lemonade stand. Like, this is a legit
exactly,
business.
But it's been a legit business for like 5 months, so I'm catching up. I'm catching up. So everything's been started documented since I got my business checking account. Everything's all automatically been going to QuickBooks, and I'm able to send that to my tax guy so he can help. But in terms of my own management, I'm like, what is this software that I've never used before? Google Sheets, I know you.
But what are you, and this is something I want to caution you on, because you run a successful enterprise now. And a lot of times I used to have business owners come into me and they'd be like, can you just take this off my plate? You know, they want to delegate the accounting system and the transactions and essentially bring the shoebox full of receipts and give you credit card statements.
Is my business at a point of...
I want you. I have no problem if you outsource and hire a bookkeeper, even do some of these
and it can be pretty inexpensive.
Options, but nobody is going to love your business like you're going to love your business. Yeah. So I encourage all of my business owners, at a minimum, while you're learning the language of business, the debits, the credits, knowing how everything's coded. Lean into that so you can actually know all the transactions in the beginning. Like I love it when I find out people using QuickBooks and they're using QuickBooks Online and they're actually downloading the transactions because they're connecting the corporate credit cards, they're connecting the corporate bank account, they're connecting the corporate, money market account, because you're going to be keeping extra, fat cash in there, and they'll just let that stuff flow in. And look, hire the person to help you with it, but get them to educate you on the process, because the more educated consumer and a more educated business owner is going to be a better just navigator of how all this is going down. And a lot of time business owners who aren't naturally accounting minded will think I can just outsource that part. And there's so many things that I always tell people, yes, go figure out what you don't want to do and outsource it, but at least get the knowledge so that you don't fall in some traps. Because when you hear about business owners who are extremely successful and then all of a sudden they're broke one day because somebody ran off with their money, I'm always like, that person didn't know the nuts and bolts. They were not watching what was going on, because you have to kind of have a flow. I mean, Bo and I go through the financial statements quarterly.
At least quarterly.
And then I always, everybody picks on me. I still run my own payroll. We have 30 employees and I'm the one running the payroll. Everybody knows I run around, high five all the employees, and I'm like, we ran it. We did it again. I mean, I know it's the silliest and most ridiculous, and I'm the most overpriced bookkeeper you've ever seen.
Like, you use like Creator Studio on YouTube. QuickBooks is no different. Like, you can pour into it. Imagine having that same sort of view into your business that you do as a creator on YouTube or whatever social. It's amazing. So you said you had this focus earlier in the year, like your primary focus was real estate, and then you focused on taxes, and now you're focused on saving. Talk to us about the real estate. What have you been doing from a real estate perspective? Why were you doing it, and why did you start there?
I've had some pretty decent success, except for my Illinois property, investing in my hometown.
Okay.
And the way I do it, because it also vibes with like my own morals and everything like that, I tend to find through my broker, who I actually rented from when I lived in that town, which is kind of interesting. find a dilapidated property that no one's willing to buy. So no one's going to buy it to live in it because I get it at 30-40% under asking. The only way to do that is because no one else is putting offers into it. So I get it, then I put some money into it, and then I get a minimum 12% cash on cash return on, just overall. So that's what I like going for. And then I do set an additional, and that's after rental property management fees. And then I send some more money aside for future repairs. So that I feel like is a really good path forward in terms of overall cash flow if the YouTube thing were to go away. So real estate's been something I've been really interested in.
Do you see the judgment in my face?
Yes.
I want you crack me up in the fact that you have this beautiful enterprise here that is exploding. I mean, it is allowing you to hire people. You're making dreams come true. And it reminds me, I had a client who worked in the telecom sector, and he was like, look, I'm frustrated because I invest in this, and I invest in this. If I just go spend $10,000 and put another crew out there working, I would make this. And I was like, you're exactly right. I was like, yes, I make more money if I manage more, but you ought to put as much as you can in the business that will get you not a 12.5% rate of return, but a 50, 100, 200. You're on 1,000% rate of return on the way yours is just quadrupled in the last year. I mean, you are on such an explosive rate that you remind me of. Have you ever heard Warren Buffett talk about how he started investing?
Yeah, I think so.
He talked about when he first, and he had success. And just like I have no doubt you're making this 12.5% and having success. But Warren Buffett described his initial investing as he'd walk around and find cigars that had been smoked, and he'd pick them up and take a few puffs, and then smoke down what was left and then throw it down. And then he realized, what am I doing? Smoking yes, I'm getting value out of this, but it's not the bang for the buck of what I'm doing is not really how I can make money. And
plus
I think
lung cancer.
Well, but I'm just making, nobody should be smoking cigars. They make you also taste, your mouth will taste like a cat came by in the middle of the night and did something inappropriate to you. But it's not good stuff. I would tell you, your cash cow is this business. All this other stuff is noise. When I saw, because I've had out-of-state rental property, not on purpose, it's just accidentally happened. Like I had my primary residence in Georgia that I couldn't sell at the time, so I rented it out. And out-of-state, even property is hard. And then having a property manager who's taking 10% off the gross, I'm assuming, that compresses it. And you are just so good at your day job. I'd love for you to just to let the real estate be after you're loaded and wealthy, and do it through commercial real estate where you're paying yourself rent and you're getting the QBI and all the other sexy things that come out of, cost segregation, depreciation, and all the other cool stuff, and leave the residential real estate stuff till later, because this thing is a shot that people just dream about for what you have created. So you ought to lean into it, because I'll quit talking. But I started podcasting in 2006, but I just enjoyed the ride. I didn't maximize it and turn it into a business. YouTube, when it came back around in 2017, when we got into YouTube, I have now fully invested with staff and other things. And I would just encourage you, don't do the stuff you think rich people do. Lean into what you've caught the magic thing, and I think it could do tremendous things for you, Caleb. I really do.
Can I add a bit of context just to see if that changes it?
Okay.
I probably spend maybe 10 minutes on the phone once a month, and that's it. When it comes to this.
See, the thing is, I've done too much research on you, because you are a good dude. And I heard, tell me if I got this right.
The franchise?
No. Hear me out. No, I'm not going to pick on you on that yet.
Well, I decided not to.
I know. But here's you have a tenant that hasn't paid much rent.
No rent.
Threatens people. No rent. No. Threatens people anytime you have repairs done. Has hired an attorney to not pay you rent.
She's out, by the way.
Okay.
Good.
But you realize, and I heard you when you were doing the interview on this, you were worried where would she land if you evicted her. And I'm like, Caleb's too nice to be a landlord. You really are too nice to be a landlord.
I think there's good ways to be about it. That's why I try to buy the houses that people won't buy to live in. I try to buy them in transitory areas where people don't buy to live because it's near a college. People stay there max 4 years. So it just kind of goes with, I want to make sure I'm feeling good while also making the money. And so the people that manage for me, she wouldn't have qualified to live there anyway. She just came on with the purchase, and we knew there was going to be a hassle for a few months.
Like she was a tenant when you bought the place. Got it.
So we already knew going into it that was going to be something that had to happen because of potential violence and stuff like that. So I recognized that, and again, I probably spent 5 minutes on that personally because I didn't have to do anything.
But doesn't that give you anxiety knowing that all that drama went on?
For an incredibly anxious person, for some reason, not.
Really?
I don't get anxious about that stuff. No.
Is it a correct assumption? Because you said there's a reason this kind of aligns with what you want to see happening in the world. So this is a little bit like philanthropy for you, right? You're kind of saying like, I mean, you're certainly benefiting from it. Because when I hear 12% cash on cash return, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through the numbers? Walk us through realistically, what are we talking about here?
So bought this one for about $100,000 here, or purchased $110,000.
Okay.
What I get post collection from, post management is $1,400.
Okay.
Plus, I'm actually wrong about the value on that. The value. Where was it? It's upside down. This is now valued at about $135,000.
Okay, $135,000. So $1,400 times 12 is.
Yeah, so this is giving me a monthly. I'm getting 12.7 on that number right there after monthly management fees. There's a couple that I'm looking at that are getting right about at that 12. I actually purchased these in cash.
But there's some expenses there, aren't there? I mean, there's property taxes, there's insurance. I mean, I know there's no mortgage because you just paid. Cash for what's the actual expenses on this? Yeah,
the property taxes there are quite minimal up there. In terms of repairs, I'm setting an additional 6% aside on a monthly basis. 6% of the overall gross. So that brings it down to about 11-ish.
On the $100,000 that you spent, right now it's worth $135,000 if you were to sell it. So 12% yield on that on this specific rental right here. What about these other two? You have two other ones that you have going on, right? That we did not pay cash for.
Well, let me see. Right. Yes. So the Illinois, this was my first one. I rushed into this. This one wasn't as good. I have 3 right now that I'm considering. That one of them, with its conservative projected rent, and every time she's given me a conservative projected, she gets easily hundreds more than that. But she just gives me minimum what she thinks she could collect.
But why do all this?
It's fun. It is fun.
Do you actually enjoy?
I love it.
The rental real estate business.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was first interested in before personal finance.
Okay,
but you're so good at the personal finance stuff. That's what I'm just trying to make sure.
What we're doing right here, this is the longest I've had to sit down and actually like think about this in a while. So one, I'm considering purchasing after rental property management fees will give me 12.3%. So I'm considering purchasing that and putting money in, all expenses paid of $225,000.
Okay.
And that will give me $2,767.50 after property management fees. It's a 3-unit property.
$2,760 net cash flow.
$2,767.5, yeah.
Okay.
And then there's another one that I'm going to be going all in after repairs and everything. I am purchase price, 5-unit property, $357,000.
Okay.
That is going to be giving me $4,216.50 a month after rental property management fees. That one right there is slightly by 0.19 under 12%.
Okay, so just under 12%.
Just under, but again, these are the lowest expected rents, the lowest possible expected rents.
This is my gut. Okay. I'm just going to give you my gut.
Sure.
And I have to go to my trusty source here. The financial order of operations.
I love the financial order of operations.
So here's the thing, is that if I look at this, we've already covered. I think I've heard you on the phone. You have health insurance for yourself.
Yes.
You even got health insurance for the animals.
Absolutely.
So you got number one. You have crushed it.
They just saved me $1,000 today.
So, employer match. You are the employer. So we've talked about that one. We're going to put a check on that. you don't really, I got to tell you, your credit cards, I mean, I do think you live a pretty minimalistic, besides the subwoofers and the electronics.
One time.
You're pretty good. No, I mean, seriously, I'm giving you a compliment on that. Emergency reserves, we've already covered that. You're working on that. You're doing backdoor Ross. You're crushing that. But this one, max out retirement. And here's what I want to bring you into focus on.
Okay.
Is that you have caught the tiger that everybody's chasing.
Yeah.
I think I can hear you tell the story of it, and you can tell, man, you feel like the most blessed, fortunate person that you get paid incredibly handsomely for it. Well, there's opportunities with all that income coming in that you really should be doing, like 401ks and other things. Yeah. You're going to get that 37% you're going to get on just the federal side with tax savings is going to just be incredible for you. And it gives a foundation, because I want your focus to be, how do I make my YouTube channel and the platform of content creation as big as possible? And then I want to start having money building up in the background. Just don't even think about it. Set it, forget it, just piling up. Yeah. That's what step 6 with the maxing out retirement. And then hyperaccumulation, that's where we get into, when do you think you want to be fully financially independent with the 3 bucket strategy? All the things you just talked about, because I have no doubt you're great at real estate. And we've had Scott on from Bigger Pockets, and we love those guys too. But I do think it's one of those things that it's a step 8 thing. And let me explain why.
Okay.
Is if the algorithm is like a dysfunctional significant other. I mean, you know it. It works in 28-day cycles. When it loves on you, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. And then it goes away and you're like, oh my God, how do I get it to come back and pay attention to me? So it's already got a lot of emotional ups and downs. I worry about with real estate, because I've done taxes. I did them for 16 years, and I worked with a lot of real estate investors. And you know what happens? These things are completely outgoing extroverts, in the fact that real estate values will fall while the stock market falls, while the algorithm will be treating you bad. And I just worry about if you don't have enough foundation under you financially to where your tough situation of the algorithm not loving on you and maybe your revenue's down, if all of a sudden you have a few tenants out because you're running multiple properties, you've turned a bad situation into a full-on dumpster fire, because it gets really scary without the deep pockets.
That is where buying in cash does help risk mitigate, but I do get exactly what you're saying.
But it's back to now step 6, and also the do-goodness of you want to give your employees matches. Absolutely. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that I feel like that you could you're going to get to. I think the great thing is you get to do this too. It's just you got to do it after you've gone through the other steps, and then you get to do the wealthy people stuff like buying real estate. But I think where your real estate's going to come in is because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm always shocked when they have their exit plans. The building that they bought for their business, sometimes they make more money on the buildings they bought for their business than they did for selling the business. Yeah. So if I think about it, because how cool is it that you get to buy a building for your business? You pay rent to yourself. You get all these great things they appreciate in the background. And guess what? You control who the tenant is. If you got a bad tenant, it's you. It's you, so there's just no downside. In commercial real estate, it is top of the food chain. There is a reason why people want to be in commercial. They just can't get in
until pandemics happen.
You have it but you would own the business. You own the business that's paying the rent. Now, yes, that's extra risk, but a lot of times I think you said you have a 3-year window with YouTube.
That's what they say. That's what they say.
I heard Graham say that. I disagree because I've been podcasting since 2006, and that created some benefits for me. And then I've ridden this content creation. And by the way, I used to watch. I couldn't wait for September because all the new shows would come out, and I'd watch those shows. You know what I watch now? YouTube. Guess who's on YouTube all the time, and everybody is watching it? You, Caleb.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm just telling you, this ain't going away. I think more people. I wouldn't be surprised because where was I? I was on Hulu. And I saw Mr. Beast had something being advertised or pushed. Yeah. The traditional media is coming for us too. Yeah. So you're in the perfect position to maximize that opportunity. So I just want you to do it in the right order so you can, because you just have the chance of a lifetime.
I agree with everything you just said there. On a piece of just added context to like the doing this forever type thing. I mean, I've talked about it, and just recently, I don't necessarily like this job though. I don't like the public facing part of this job. I don't like the social pressures, the number next to my name, all that stuff. I enjoy meeting the occasional person, you know, on the street. If I go to a popular area or something like that. Like I went to a restaurant a couple nights ago. I went on a first date with someone and like 5 people came up to the table. That was great. That's
a good look on a first date.
That's a good 5 separate times too, which was nice. So that's a very good, that's fun. That's fun. So as fun as that part of the job can be, it's just I don't know, when I think being an influencer, and I guess that's the status that it is, there's just a lot of just,
you don't love it,
character assassination that can happen. People just hate for no reason, which is fine. I mean, I tune it out. I don't really see most of it, but even still, it's just like my life is out there, and I don't think I'm that public of a person. So I don't like this part of the job. Love running the business. Don't really like the outside of it.
And so what you're thinking of is, hey, you know, it'd be awesome as an escape route. Something where I did not have to depend on this. And
that's where I thought the rental property would be, but it sounds like we want to at least be maxing out.
Well, I don't
number 6.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying around the rental properties.
Okay.
The problem I worry about when I look at your financial picture is that you're not quite at that place yet. We love real estate. There's nothing wrong with being a real estate tycoon. But if you add up the value of all the money you have in real estate, and by the way, you have to add your primary residence into that, because that is real estate exposure that you have. And you look at all this money that you either have in real estate or are going to have in real estate, and you compare that to the liquid wealth that you have right now, it pales in comparison.
That's true.
Well, you've already said that you want to buy properties in transient communities that are run down, that maybe don't have the highest quality tenants. Well, if we were to see something like a 2008, 2009, where there's a large recession, a lot of unemployment, those are going to be the communities that are hit the hardest. So while you may not have mortgages on those are the people who can't afford rent. They got to move out. Maybe they have other stuff going on. They're the ones that damage the property. So now you have cost to fix it. And then if you have long-term vacancies, it just doesn't seem to me, especially if we're talking about having like 16 units, you're just not deep enough on the other side of the equation. Now, if you had $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million of liquidity at your disposal, and then you wanted to do I think that they can happen in tandem, right? But what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I want to have millions upon millions of dollars in real estate, and I have hundreds of thousands liquid, or even less if you're going to use that capital.
Drastic imbalance.
It's way out of balance. If you're going to do them, they ought to at least grow in tandem.
So you're thinking like 50-50 split?
I mean, what we have found is that if you can let the foundational assets, the steps 1 through 7, right? The 401ks and the taxable brokerage accounts and the Roth IRAs, if you can let those build up, they begin growing upon themselves to where they actually become the mechanism that funds the other thing. If you have $1 million in the S&P 500 and a year in the S&P 500 makes 20%, you now have $200,000 at your disposal that you can either let continue to roll or use that to go fund additional real estate properties. If you have it twisted where now you have all this money in real estate, none of this liquid capital, and things go wrong, that's where you get yourself into a really, really bad spot. And then worst case scenario, you have to start liquidating properties and you have to start getting out of those because, and I just think that you can do it and there's nothing wrong, especially the fact that you like real estate, you enjoy it, you enjoy talking about it. But I think that if you go this hard at it, you're doing it at the wrong stage and wrong season of your wealth building journey. Because even though you are wildly successful, you're sort of like a new wealthy person. And I don't mean that like disparagingly,
no, but like
you have not built the foundation that would substantiate beginning to buy a lot of really illiquid, more aggressive, more risky things. Because like some of your free cash flow on these properties is great. Yeah, I might have $1,400, $1,200, $2,400 coming in, but it's $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 capital that's locked up. That's not working for me elsewhere. Whereas the market can do both. It can grow the same way the real estate grows, and it can provide you capital to use. Now, I like that you're not doing the crazy stuff like trying to do cash out refis and pull money out of the real estate and that sort of thing.
Well, maybe if rates were like 2%.
Maybe, right? But even then, I'm hoping that your foundation is so big. You know what's great about real estate investors who don't have to borrow money? They don't have to borrow money. Right? When your foundation is big enough, you can just look for really great opportunities. It's the whole Warren Buffett thing. He would rather buy great companies at good prices than good companies at great prices. You're going to come out a lot better.
Cigar. I never finished the cigar, but that's what Bo just put it good. The CFA on, sitting here is that yes, you've got to. It's not only about the value; it's something that's going to turn into something just beautiful in the long term. And
what's amazing is there are so many tax incentives to build wealth on that side by doing a retirement plan, by having a 401k where you could do a safe harbor, a new profit sharing, and even then you can do a cash balance plan on top of that. It is not uncommon. A lot of our entrepreneurs or business owners, they might be able to save hundreds of thousands of dollars annually on a pre-tax basis. Exactly. So you imagine if you could put $500,000 into retirement accounts a year, it's going to save you $250,000 in taxes. Well, the tax savings alone would fund your next property. So you get to choose. Would I rather own a piece of real estate or pay Uncle Sam? I think most people would rather go buy the piece of real estate with that savings.
Well, and you are the perfect tenant in the fact that back to commercial real estate down the road, you could, because you told me what you're going to be paying in rent, and you're going, because here's what happened to us, just giving you the experience share. We were paying, it started, it was $12,000 a month, and then we grew into another space because the firm was growing to 17,000 a square month.
We had a couple different suites, so it was.
And then we were going to grow one more time, and it was going to be over $20,000 a month. So we were like, let's go buy something.
$20,000 for how big?
So we have 27,000 square feet, but we only used probably 13,000.
Yeah, the space we were in was probably less than 10,000 square feet, probably all in.
I thought this place of like 4,000 square feet was huge.
Well, there's content, wealth management, there's multiple business, real estate, there's a bunch of different stuff. You're going to get that big though. Look,
remember how you said you bought this house and then all of a sudden you got in this house, it got smaller and smaller and smaller.
For building out content spaces.
Right, like the same thing happens on the business
we were
side.
talking about George and Ramsey Solutions and stuff. Think about that. I remember Bo and I went to what they used to call Financial Peace, and I just thought it was a big building. Yep. And now they have that. You will have the same type of thing. Is whatever. That's back to the point. You were acting like this was going to get cheaper. This will never get cheaper. I'm just telling you, your success will propel your footprint gets bigger and bigger, and you have to plan and really accordingly have a big enough base underneath you so that you don't get caught. Because it's back to a Warren Buffett quote: when the tide goes out, you get to see who's swimming naked. I mean, who's skinny dipping. Yeah. And that's why if you don't have liquidity, you don't have the oxygen for business. That's what cash is. We all take, breathing. I can sit here and go, I can do that all show, and y'all be like, why is he breathing so heavy on camera? But it's because it's free. I can waste it. But if we were doing this underwater, every breath would be priceless. And that's exactly what happens when you get into a bad situation. The liquidity and access to money is going to be what drives it.
So I think I was headed towards the place you wanted me to be until these properties. So again, this is out of date. So these were of the money that I have. Well, I guess the cash was good, but a lot of that was invested. So the Fidelity went up to, or overall investing went up to $500,000.
That's great. That's moving in a great. That's bigger than what we saw. So
and these three properties though would require me to exit a lot of those positions, not the retirement tax advantage accounts,
but the taxable available liquidity accounts.
Yeah. Well, value have gone down on them anyway, so hopefully we could write some of that off.
And one of the things that I would think, a lot of folks who want to get in real estate, they want to get in whole hog, as heavy as they can, as fast as they can. I can't just buy one property. I got to go buy 4 properties.
It's addicting.
Right? Well, you're in an income situation that is high and an expense situation is low. That means that every month you have a lot of free cash flow. I think there's nothing wrong with picking up some of these properties as you move through time. Certainly if your income can substantiate that. But robbing one part of your financial picture to go fund another part of your financial picture, you're stealing something that you need and just moving it over to something else that you think that you need. Okay. I would argue perhaps that's not the most prudent decision.
That's fair enough.
I think you can do both. I don't think it has to be an either or, where if you were to do that, you're going to making it an all real estate decision. And I just think that's going to be more aggressive of a posture.
Like I said before, I didn't know exactly what the money was being used for, so I just put it in the overall market. So I guess I didn't view it as stealing from that, because it was like, was it designed to be in there necessarily? I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe I was waiting for a good deal, but after what you guys are saying, that makes complete sense.
Well, at the very beginning, we said you need a base of assets, a base of cash flow generating assets. If we're going to assume a 3% to 4% withdrawal rate, of somewhere between $6 to $10 million.
Don't we feel real estate is a better avenue when it comes to the overall cash flow that I'm getting?
It is an avenue. It is an avenue. Okay. I would actually argue that it's not necessarily a better avenue because we have a lot of clients who have very large 7-figure portfolios living off of 6 figures of income strictly from their portfolios because you can actually tax manage that even a little bit more efficiently than you can paid off real estate, right? Like there are, especially once you kind of get past the first few years of real estate ownership, a portfolio can do that for you. Again, it's not an all or nothing. I think it can be a combination of both. I just worry if you get it out of whack, you set yourself up to where the bad could get really bad really fast.
And I have something really fun. That's why I'm over here practically giddy and giggling to myself. But I will say, I've seen cap rates, were so low for so long. And think about how much property, Caleb, appreciated 50 to 60% over the last 4 years.
Right.
If you go reversion to the mean, does that mean if properties typically historically have made 3 to 4% annually, and we just packed in 50 to 60% in the last 3 to 4 years,
are the best
there
prices
might
right
be
now.
A period, not where it goes down. I'm not willing to argue that properties will go down, but it might sit flat to a degree. You see that with real estate all the time.
That's a major reason I didn't want to take leverage on these.
And interest rates are putting tons of pressure on all of that. So it's just,
But even that, the whole beautiful thing about real estate, the thing that makes it so attractive is the levered opportunity, right? When you talk about cash on cash.
And I'd love to again.
That gets really exciting. But right now with interest rates,
doesn't make sense.
You know what I mean? But what does look really great? S&P 500 stock market over the long term.
That's a great segue. Yeah. I can't. I'm sitting there going, please let me speak, because I even slid it over so let you be part of this fun action that we're going to get to do. I want to read some investments to you, and I want you to tell me what is not like the other. Okay, we're playing a game. What is not like the other? Okay. Fidelity Zero Large Cap Index Fund.
So that's a mutual fund. You know what that invests in?
The large cap. I'm sorry. Read it out.
Fidelity Zero Large Cap Index. You know what that invests in?
Just the overall market,
large companies in the United States. Yeah. Large. Okay, keep going.
Okay. Fidelity Total Market Index Fund. What does that primarily invest in?
Like the S&P 500.
Like 60,
what do you know?
S&P 500.
Yeah. Hang on. I know exactly.
Fidelity. Here's another one. Fidelity 500 Index Fund.
What's that?
What does that invest in?
I have no idea.
It sounds a lot like a large cap American company. How about the Fidelity Zero Total Market Index? The biggest holding is the Spider S&P 500 ETF.
Let me some SPY.
You realize you own like
8 different flavors. 8 different flavors of the same hot dog.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I could say 9 things that are doing pretty much the same thing.
So all of those mutual funds before, I don't think I really have much in them. So when I was first learning whenever I opened Fidelity at first, when I was just playing around with just the different things that they offer, the different mutual funds will have the best rate of return historically on their platform. And I was just playing around with them, and a lot of them, they have probably $2 in them sometimes. Some of them I exited, left like a share. Some might have a little more than that. Not 100% sure at this time. But I think the vast majority is SPY and QQ.
By the way, I love all those funds. It's just I've never seen anybody buy 9 of them.
Yep.
I mean,
usually
you choose one.
Buy 9.
You choose one, and then you stick with that one.
This was a long time ago, but it's just I was just okay, they're doing it, they're fine. But that's just not what I'm not going with those funds.
Well, I think what's so interesting is what we do in our day job, right? We're fee-only financial advisor. We help people make good decisions. We already established you're sort of new to being wealthy. You're new to being a rich guy. I'm going to use that term loosely, but you're new to being someone who has success. One of the things that we tell people is early on in your financial journey, specifically when it comes to investing, it's so easy for us to make it hard. What stock do I buy? What ETF? What sector? What this? What that? What this? What that? One of the things we love telling people who are early on in their journey to do is go look at a target retirement index fund. You think about the year that you want the money and then how much you can save. Because I would argue, at your income level, no matter how you invest this, no matter what you put it in, your savings percentage of your income is going to vastly outperform this. If you can save an extra 5% of what you're making income-wise, it's going to do way more than figuring out how to make 5%. So don't waste the calories on this part yet, right? pick something super, super easy, something super, super low cost, something that's automatic, so that you can focus your efforts on the place that have the biggest return, which is your savings rate. How do I have an understanding of what my business expenses are, my personal expenses, and then how much I'm saving? Because all this is kind of minutia, at least until the portfolio reaches the critical mass. Because what you're going to find out is that different types of investments are even taxed in different ways. So when you do, if you do, start a 401k plan. You're going to have different types of things that you're going to hold in there versus what you hold in your Roth IRA versus what you hold in your taxable account. Sure. Because especially, even if you're going to use your taxable account to potentially fund future real estate purchases, one of the things you're going to want to do once you reach that critical mass is tax manage it well so that you can get to that capital. Because it does you no value to put a bunch of money in a taxable account, put $500,000 in there and have it turn into $1 million. Well, then to get to it, it's going to be incredibly cumbersome from a tax perspective if you've not tax managed it all along the way. Well, the more account types that you have and the better your allocation is, the more that you're able to do that, but in time. And you're not quite at that place just yet on your wealth building journey.
I would love to see you race to get to $3 million in liquid assets as fast as possible. I mean, I really would. Come up for air at $3 million. And just see
then I can play with real estate.
no. Well, I mean, it's just, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to, I think that you could focus all of your energy on the content game because you're good at it. People love hearing you. They feel connected to you.
But I don't like it.
But you have, and that's why it does break my heart.
That's why if you race to $3 million, you give yourself options to get out of it.
Exactly.
Have you ever had a $3 million portfolio make 10% before?
No.
Do you know how much a $3 million portfolio making 10% will make?
Yeah, $300,000.
$300,000, right? That's just while you were sleeping, right?
Yeah.
Think about how hard it is for a bunch of different real estate properties to go out there and appreciate by $300,000. I mean, certainly in 21 and 22, you saw but if on average it's 4% per year, S&P 500 capital appreciation is a little bit better than 4% per year. So it gives you the flexibility to decide how much in the public eye you want to be. I think faster than exclusively real estate would allow you to do that.
Do you think in these type of income situations that more target-based retirement funds where it gets more conservative over time makes sense? Because I personally don't care about it adjusting to a more conservative portfolio near retirement for myself.
I think realistically, if you're racing to that 3 million number we threw out, you're probably going to get to that critical mass before the glide path even starts adjusting. Because at your age, if you pick something that's 2060, 2065, it's going to be majority equity-based right now. If you hit that number in the next 2, 3, 4 years, the allocation will not have changed that much, and you likely will have altered your strategy before then. It's just a placeholder to the next step.
It's more of, I would like to see you index focused, consolidate though, because there is too much of a good thing with the name soup that you've got going on. And I want to something, because I've been in the game for a while, and I know, Joe Salciha, Joe does a lot. He's like the founder, or he's the seed planner for a lot of podcasts out there. That might be in your future too, Caleb. You don't always have to be before the camera, or you could be. You have a platform you've built that you figure out what makes you comfortable. But I'd like to tell you this, because I feel like one of my superpowers is EQ and getting a sense for people pretty quick. People like and care for you, and I hate that the negative people, because there's always trolls. And for a while I thought I was a troll whisperer and I could convert trolls into fans, but I realized, don't let those people, because you're educating, you're changing people. We talked about the whole budgeting, we talked about debt. America needs that stuff. So don't let somebody who's jealous or just doesn't know your heart, or just because they feel smart behind a keyboard, because there's a lot of those out there as well. You keep doing what you're doing, but I think there is an avenue where if it's just personally too much for all the attention, you can always go behind the camera and be essentially the kingmaker, or the person who kind of chooses the next. Because I think you have a big enough platform you're going to be able to do great things.
Well, you know,
that gets me so exciting.
Yeah. The thing that's interesting, like criticism's good. I like criticism. So I'm not talking
constructive criticism.
Yeah. Or even just people just giving their opinions on my show, even if it's negative. Like it's totally fine. Like we just agree to disagree, right?
Yeah.
On certain things. And then criticisms are good. What I don't like is the more character assassination. And what I don't like, the platform we're on is the second most used search engine in the United States.
Yep.
The world? I don't know. But the United States is the greatest place to make content. There's a big industry within this space that none of us have experienced yet, but I know that people above our threshold where we might get to someday, there's an entire industry baked in YouTube that is all about just bringing other people down and drama.
And breaking them. Yeah.
And I don't want to get to that point because I know my mental health is not strong enough for that personally on my own mental health struggles. So this is, I don't know. That's my big fear when it comes to this overall.
And what I love is, we say this all the time on the show, money is nothing more than a tool that allows us to do the things that we want to do. Right now, you are strapped to a rocket ship that allows you to build up that pot of money that's going to give you whatever it is that you want. Maybe it's the exit, maybe it's the freedom to be away from the camera, maybe it's the whatever, to where you don't feel like you, because I bet right now, and we say this all the time, we're sort of trapped by content. Now, it's fortunate we love doing it and we have so much fun, but you kind of have to keep feeding the beast.
You do.
Until you've been able to build up a foundation where you don't have to do that anymore. You get to do it because you want to do it, not because you have to do it.
Resources gives you options. So that's why it's back to race to get to 3 million before you come up to air, because having a big pot of money underneath you gives you options. And I think you would benefit. I think it would actually, because I daydream just talking to you and seeing your heart even more, to where 3 years in the future, you've come to peace with some of the anxiety and the other things. And then you wake up in the morning just so excited to just create content because you know the impact it has. And that's what we talk about. I mean, that's what poor Reby and Bo, because everybody my age has already started selling their businesses. And even when I started in my 20s, I was planning on saving to get to the age I am now so I could quit working. Caleb, I can't quit doing this. And I want you to get to that, because, and that's where you see like Dave Ramsey and other content creators, I think they're going to do it. Clark Howard, people who've had huge impacts on my life, they don't look like they're retiring. And I think it's because they love it, because you do know you're making things better. And that's something, lean into the positive side of that. Now, look, I know we're coming to a close. I feel like we would screw up if I didn't hear your British Morgan Freeman, because I have a great accent as well. So I wanted to hear yours.
Hello, I'm Morgan Freeman, isn't it?
How does that not kill? Does that kill every time that you use it?
I've gotten good responses to it. Some people don't like it, but I've gotten good responses.
If it's close my eyes, it's like I can see him. It's like he's sitting across the table from me. Let's hear yours.
Do you want to hear my English accent? It's the Bloody Beatles. It's good. Wasn't that good?
Very good.
Should I record that and put that on my Hinge as well?
I think you should. I think that would really boost up the dating.
Everybody's
profile.
looking for Southerners that can do English accents. But I totally, I don't know. There's probably some market for it. I did want to, before we left, there's a few other things I wanted to christen you with. Okay. I wanted you to have your own laminated copy. This is not my actual original. This is actually your copy. Now, very well, you could throw it away after we leave, but at least
I got
I had some requests.
Well,
I
as
had
you're talking
some
to
requests.
people, the whole reason we did is we wanted to be an instruction manual of what to do with your next dollar. A lot of the folks that you work with on your channel are looking for that. Hey, what's my next step? Okay, here's a great little system you can use to walk through that. So we thought it might be helpful.
Which is actually funny, because a lot of people, they always talk about like, hey, Caleb, we talk about a lot of people that just have a bunch of debt and stuff like that and want to get out of it. I think that's where I've come from. So I like to talk about where I come from, because I got out of a lot of debt. I've come to myself at the point of, before I even started YouTube, $250,000 net worth by 25 or something like that. So like that's, I think, pretty acceptable.
Absolutely.
So that's where I like to share that knowledge. And then they're like, okay, next steps. And I've brought up many times on our social media and the YouTube video, Money Guy.
Yeah, love it.
Check them out this is already on your channel, but.
And that's where great segue, because I've heard you a few times.
Oh, yes.
And your audience, I mean, sometimes your audit participants, they know 23.8.
Yes.
You have a hard time with that 23.8. So I was like,
I do.
At least we could give Caleb his own laminated copy of our money guy auto purchasing resource that has 23/8 and all the other things. So once it's laminated, it's forever, right?
Is.
I mean, every school teacher. I mean, the only thing I wish is that we didn't do this right before we showed up, so you could have gotten the
Are you guys
warm
not
feel
more
of
of
it.
a cash person if you can?
Yeah,
for the average
sure,
person.
of course.
That's what
Cash
I
is
thought.
always
But most
first.
people can't, right? The most Americans can't do that, and so we wanted to provide a bridge to help people figure out how to do it. Because we are not proponents for go out and buying a $1,000 car, because sometimes a $1,000 car is not safe for your family. You'll spend more fixing it. So 23/8 is supposed to give you a bridge to figure out.
I always forget where the 20 and the 3 and the 8 goes. I always put like the 8 up front and then
it's supposed to be a Corolla, not a luxury car. That's where people screw it up. But yeah, cash is always king on buying a car. It's a depreciating asset. That's why we even have these rules. But there have been times in my life where I couldn't afford to pay buy a car for $2,000, and I know with what's happened with inflation.
Oh yeah,
are there even cars? Because I heard, when you were one of the shows I was watching with you, somebody was pushing $5,000 cars, and I was like, are there even reliable $5,000 cars anymore? And that's why this is a bridge to giving you reliable transportation, so you have the tool. Most people need to have that tool of reliable transportation so they can make it to their job.
I just get so nervous when people go to the car dealership. It's one reason why I only bring it up to people who are a little more disciplined, because I've just had so many people go to the dealership. They have like $1,000 to put down, but because they're borrowing money, it's like fake money that doesn't exist. So they get a car that's more expensive than the car they were going to get. So I always just get a little nervous when it comes to leverage on that. I personally actually really like, let's say I'm getting a $10,000 car, right? And rates were better. If I could just put $1,000 down on a $10,000 car at like 3% and invest that other $9,000, I personally like that. But I like to finesse and be wild. But I think 99.99% of people should not do that.
Right. And there's an arbitrage there. But if you look at the arbitrage on the cash that you have invested versus whatever that car payment is on
it's not going to be crazy.
Car, what are you really doing? I try to do that.
Fun.
I try. Oh, okay. Well, I try to do it every single time, but I just can't. I pay off the car because I just don't like having.
I did that with my Jeep.
Right. You just get tired of having the payment. It's the thing that happens.
I would challenge you. The other thing, because you've been scribing all kind of great notes here. I want you to pay for your Ashley furniture.
Oh yeah. Why do you have debt?
What? 0%.
We even talk about your debt. Why do you have consumer debt on the balance sheet?
0% financing. I could pay for it today if I wanted to.
Do it.
But I would
it's not
rather
worth the
it
hassle
make
factor.
Monies.
Did you see if
what
you
hassle?
if you had one slip and fall where you didn't make the payment? Did you read the actual statement language?
I've never missed a payment in my life.
It's accruing at like 30+% a month. It's like $270, and they're just like, please let Caleb screw this up. Please let Caleb screw this up, so that they can actually wallop you with all that interest.
I immediately get the thing in the mail. Automatic payment is turned on that day to make sure it is paid off by the time it would hit interest, and then I just invest the rest. I'm gonna make
Caleb Hammer every hour. Do you know what your time is worth? I mean, look, I don't want to tell everybody what you make, so I'm just going to use a hypothetical. Do you realize a person that makes $1 million a year, there's 2,000 hours of work hours in a year, that's over $500 an hour every hour that you're working?
We're probably pretty close to that. The business brings in low six figures
but
before
think
payroll.
about, I'm not trying to put any, I'm just trying to say, if I was trying to play games with what your time is worth, us even having this conversation on Ashley Furniture,
we're losing money on it.
We've already lost money.
We're losing money on this conversation.
Unless this thing gets 1 million views, and then it's good content. But otherwise, it's a wasted effort, not over the hassle factor.
$100 I may have made for investing that money instead was $100 of fun I had making that $100.
Okay.
I mean,
if it's fun, right?
Other people they play golf. I go and finesse the finances.
And you go borrow money from Ashley Furniture. All right, whatever.
Yeah, I got 50% off though because my friend works there. My friend's mom works there.
So you even got a huge deal and you still borrowed the money.
I did because I just wanted to throw it all. I was trying to get to $500,000 as quick as I could in Fidelity. So I was just like, let's just do it.
I love it. All right. Well, that's a thing,
What questions do you have for us? 'Cause I know we're coming to a close. Anything we didn't cover that I want to make sure we answer?
Out of all of those scribbly mutual funds and stuff versus just the classic Spider and QQQs, what's the actual percentage you see there in all those?
It's small.
It's like what, 1%?
Less than 5% for sure. For sure.
This is what I started with. Just to be clear,
it's like a patchwork quilt of Caleb from many years ago.
Yes,
for sure.
So to be clear, that is not what I am doing today.
Yep.
or even recently. Okay. Another question I had, so I just purchased the house and we got Graham's opinion on it. And, you know, I've seen some online opinions about it too, which has been interesting. So I'm curious you guys' thought on the house.
Well, generally speaking, when it's time to buy real estate, we tell someone, hey, real estate really needs to be, for your primary residence, like a 5 to 7 year forward-looking decision, meaning do you have certainty that the circumstance you're in right now, whether it be employment, family, relational, all that kind of stuff, is locked in for the next 5 to 7 years? So if I were to ask you that, do you feel like where you are right now, 5 to 7 years, your life will look the same as it does today?
Some people tell me it will not, but I have a hard time not. I love this house, and there's some stuff I want to do to, you know, in like the backyard with the pool and stuff like that. But I mean, I love the town. I'm here with all my friends, so I don't see me leaving Austin. So this has a place I can build out into. Maybe not for content, but for like potential relationship, if one of those ever happen.
Sure.
And you know,
kids, but 5 to 7 years could be a check.
Oh, yes.
Yes, for sure. That's what we're asking is 5 to 7 years works.
Because I bought my first house before my wife and I got married. And when she moved in, it always was my house. And she made it very clear that she wanted an our house, right? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a thing. But if you feel confident that 5 to 7 years, that checks the first box. And I don't think that's crazy.
So the other question, and this is a big one that a lot of people fall into. I feel pretty optimistic for you, though. Okay. Is it 25% of your gross income? Is it less than 25%?
Definitely less than 20%, yeah.
Okay, and then...
but we know YouTube's variable.
YouTube's variable, sure, right? But are you getting close to that 25? Like, is it like 24.97%
no.
of...
There's lots of margin there.
So there's a lot of margin there. And how significant of a down payment did you put on the house?
20%.
Yeah. 20%. So first time home, you know, we tell people all the time, for your first time, you only have to do 3.5%, 5%. You don't have to do 20. You already have equity in this home. So you've checked one, and then you've got a bunch of equity in it, and it's relatively minimal cost relative to your income.
Got a little bit of a nasty rate though, like 6.5 or something.
Okay, that's not 6.5's not.
You
great.
realize there's a lot of mortgages going out the door right now over 7.5%.
Yes,
so you actually look good on paper. Plus, you're going to get to deduct that interest.
Didn't
so
rates
it's going to be
just hit 8% this last week?
I think some of them did touch like right at the 8. But what? So let's say that rates drop in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Sure. What are you going to do?
I would probably pull equity out.
That's almost the right answer. You mean you're going to refinance to a lower rate? That's what you mean, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, if rates drop, I'm going to refinance below my 6.5% rate.
Listen, context, it's been a very long day. We've been recording a lot. But yes, I would refinance to a lower rate.
And so 6.5's not great. I am of the opinion, you do a 30 or 15-year mortgage.
Yes. 30.
30 year. I bet in the next 30 years, rates will drop to an extent where you're going to be able to refinance that down. And then, okay, it wasn't a great rate early on, but you get in 4.5%, 5.5%.
So was this house a stupid purchase?
Well, I don't love how you ended up, because it sounded like when you've been very transparent, it sounded more emotional than analytical. We just did an analytical exercise, but sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And I got to tell you, in the grand scheme of it, you can afford this house. And I can tell you're being so hard on yourself about this, but when we were actually going through our concerns and things that we want you to focus on financially, the house, especially when I hear how much you love this house, we're all for it. Water under the bridge, rock and roll, enjoy and live your best life in this house.
Best life in this house. Okay, that's good. I mean, I'm making some pretty awesome espresso out there. You guys saw the machine.
I did see it. I'm excited to sample some of your barista skills.
Yes.
So I need to know, are you a go to the other content guys that you've asked this opinion, like, in your face?
The money guy said it was okay.
See? I mean, you guys are the minds. Again, I've said it a couple times. I don't know if it was on my show or your show, but you guys are the minds. So, I mean, that's good to hear. I've heard people think that we talked about maybe making an impulsive choice on this, but I think people have took it like, oh, I like this house. Okay, I'm going to get this house. And all of a sudden I got this house. So I was looking at potentially buying for a couple months, and then this house stuck with me after visiting it like 6 times. And after you visit like 6 times, you're like, oh, okay, we're probably getting it. So I pulled the trigger on the house while looking for a house a little more impulsively. So
maybe it's impulsive, but I think Rick Ross just bought a house for like $35 million. That's not this. This is not.
Rick Ross has that money?
Yeah, well,
these days
he had that money, I guess, but you know what I mean. I don't think this is going to be the thing that breaks you. It's a beautiful house, but it's not outlandish. I don't think you got way out over your skis.
In Austin, this is not a wild house.
Right. So I don't have a whole lot of problem with it.
Plus, our answer makes us your favorite, right?
Yes.
That's right. So it's a win-win.
I feel like we need to have a group audit on Rick Ross, though.
Let's do it. Rick, if you're out there, we love to have you on Financial Audit by Caleb Hammer and the Money
I
Machine.
do like his video where he shows him cutting his own grass, though.
Big grass cutter.
Oh.
Yeah, he cuts his own grass.
I'll be honest, I do pay someone for that.
Same.
I sold 10% of my company about a year ago. And in the contract, I said that I could buy it back at the same price that I sold it with.
You should, and you are.
Which is great.
You've already done it, right?
I am.
Hopefully.
I'm a little like, it would be fun. Don't really want to. I'm like 10% I would do it, but I want your opinions on it. Like, what if I just went and sold that 10% in market price now and invested that in the best financial channels that could ever exist ever? Just make all this new content.
If you sold it to us, then I'm all for it. 100% I'm in. Outside of that, I think, again, this is a great Warren Buffettism. One thing he used to do when he used to acquire a lot of companies is because he recognized how valuable his cash was, instead of buying the companies in cash, he would exchange Berkshire Hathaway stock to buy those companies. So he'd go acquire a company, give it. What he said is, when I recognize what happened to Berkshire Hathaway over the next 15, 20, 30 years, the price I paid for those companies was 100-fold what they were worth. He said, I will never make the mistake again of trading equity in my thing when I could have used cash to do it. So for small businesses that we see, especially small business, like, it's one thing if you need to bring on private equity because you're capital strapped or something like that.
Which we're not there.
That's not you. Letting go of equity this early in your journey and this early, there's just not a ton of value in it for you. Even if you get the payday, you have enough free cash flow coming in that you can create your own payday. So I do not think, unless you're selling it to us, then we'll take it. We're in.
Which is what I wanted you to say.
Outside of that, I don't know that I would be willing to walk away from that equity at this stage.
Yeah, and there's like a 10% part of me where I'm like, oh, that could be a little fun. But like 90%, the rational 90% is like, Caleb, shut the F up. You're stupid.
Yeah, truthfully, I'm not upset that the way it worked out, because you never know when you've worked your best day is one of the things we've talked about with some of our successful clients. And then the fact that I know that you sold that 10% to another successful YouTuber, and you even gave them credit that they helped you out with thumbnails. So some of that might have been the secret sauce that let you be on this rocket ship. So, but you've now come on the other side and you can buy that 10% back for the same price. They got a great return, good on them. But don't make the mistake again, because now that you're actually in orbit, you got launch momentum to where you actually have now left the atmosphere. Why would you now go do it all over again? Because I think you have enough money coming in. You know, we threw out some technology that I think, in a hardware you could go look at, and I know you're doing space. So you're already investing into the business. What would you do if you came? I'm worried if you did that right now, you might go buy some rental properties.
Honestly,
which is not. You'd be better served leaning into, as Bo said, going whole hog on your business and investing in yourself. Because I think you got a lot of opportunity in the future. And I think you're not giving yourself enough credit, so I wouldn't do it unless you're selling to us. I'll throw out that caveat, because if you're going to fall in that trap, let it be the one putting the pine straw. But I wouldn't. If I was in your shoes, I wouldn't do it.
No, I won't. Nor should I. Nor do I want to. But it's a curious thing.
Sure,
because I'm getting 10% back that I haven't really had most of the time I had the channel. So it's like interesting.
Yeah, but when you think about what that 10% could be worth one day, when you look at the YouTube channels that are far out ahead, or even step away from YouTube, the media companies that are 5, 10, 15 years ahead of you, if you were to continue this, that could be worth a substantial sum. And you'd be so happy that you're able to reacquire it at cost, right? That's amazing.
Yeah. People typically sell to create liquidity events because they're trying to build independence.
Sure.
I think you have enough cash flow coming in, you could do both.
That's right.
You can invest in the company, and if you'll do what we say, put your head down, get to $3 million as fast as possible through the financial order of operations, you can do it both without having to bring in an outside business partner.
So I'll give you guys what my hope and plan relatively was, and we've adjusted I'm going to adjust that based on this conversation, because you guys, I always am like, okay, know what you know, and then what you don't know, listen to people who are much smarter than you. And you guys have been like incredible in your lives and helping other people when it comes to, okay, when you have a business and successful business, what to do with that. That's never what I've focused on in my life and learning. So that's what I'm like learning right now. And this is very good. My plan was like $2.5 million in equity positions in real estate that cash flowed 12%. Okay. That was my goal. I could get about, what did I say? 2.5 million?
2.5
Yeah, because that would get me about $25,000 a month. Sometimes repairs would happen, sometimes vacancies would happen, but that's typically what it would give me. That was my goal. But now it sounds like we're readjusting. We're going to shoot for $3 million invested in the overall stock market, $3 million and $200,000 as soon as we can in the business, just fat cash on the side. So when I'm racing towards the $3 million, should I even be thinking of real estate in there at all? Or do I just hold on to what I have and just go full $3 million as quick as I can?
Well, we have to be careful to answer that question and sort of our own personal bias, because we are personally biased, which we like the liquid investments.
Okay.
If you say that you enjoy real estate and you derive utility out of it, and it's something you like doing, there's nothing wrong with doing it at the same time. I don't know that I would argue it's the most efficient way to accomplish the goals, but there are many paths to wealth, right? And if that's the path that is the more enjoyable for you, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing them both at the same time.
Okay.
I think you would have more opportunities. Because do you know a lot of real estate professionals are getting 12% yields on their total portfolio?
No, and I have a great market. I know.
That's just, for all the real estate folks that I know, we have a lot of clients in real estate, 12% cap rate on it, that's strong. That's really, really strong, especially on like residential real estate.
That's why I'm also patient though. Like I'll hold on to like the $500,000 I was sitting there. I'm happy to hold on to that for 2 years until that 12% property hits. Luckily, some things have just fallen onto my lap.
Sure.
That's actually, someone's just cashing out and moving to Wyoming within the brokerage. So they're literally just trying to get out of houses. So that's why I'm getting a little more lucky with it. But again, like I don't want to rush into it. So yeah, a lot of people, they get things that do not hit that overall return. And me, I'm willing to be patient and wait until something hits that return.
So it's really interesting. There is a great time to buy real estate, and it's when there's a great price. Do you know when the great time to buy into the market is?
Always.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I think also don't lose the focus that when we say get to $3 million, a lot of that's probably going to be in retirement assets, because you haven't even rung that bell yet.
Yeah,
with all that's a very aggressive thing the government's going to let you do for you and your employees. So I think that's why it lets you, it's tax efficient. It's also going to be very liquid, but it's going to be in index funds. So that's where I would lean heavily into that part of it. And because a lot of it's going to be retirement accounts and those type of things as well.
So here's on my checklist: $200,000 fat cash to the business, set up 401k within the business, take advantage of some of the tax benefits that come along with that, maxing out my retirement and contributing to employees' retirement as well when it comes to matches. And switching from Google Sheets.
Big one.
Please lean into QuickBooks.
Yeah. That's just something, I've just needed to take the time, and we've just grown faster than I could ever imagine. And then on the personal side, aiming for at least a 50-50 split when it comes to stocks and real estate overall for the entire portfolio long term, but then also racing to $3 million in more liquid assets.
Yeah. And then the only other question I had is, you had a few like random accounts, like some other type of investment brokerages, like auto investing type things.
Yeah.
In my opinion, life is so busy anyways, I try to consolidate as much as possible. So instead of having 3 different accounts over there, perhaps it makes sense for me to have an account, right? So that's another thing I would look at is, do I really want, and in the cyber age in which we've lived, we've seen that with our clients, the ones who tend to have the largest issues with like cyber events taking place are the ones who have the most random accounts spread all over the place. If you kind of know the 5 or 6, 7 accounts that you have that are like consolidated, it's much easier to stay on top of that without your information being out there. So if you have like random $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 accounts sitting out there, I'd argue why. Consolidate into those and don't even.
Honestly, the reason was because they had like a sign up bonus where you put in $5,000, you get $1,000, something
back
like that.
to hassle factor. Every hour
for $20, we can get Caleb to do anything in the world.
Caleb doesn't know what it. Tell me you don't know what your time's worth without telling me you don't know what your time's worth.
I don't know what time's worth.
I mean, goodness gracious.
7 years ago, I was delivering Jimmy John's, so I could pay rent.
That's very different. Very different.
Everything you do, I want you to say, say, is this a $500 to $1,000 decision? If the answer is no, it's not worth the hassle factor for you.
Fair enough. Plus, I also like to, this is not a good reason, to be very clear. I just like to try out different trading platforms.
Sure.
Since the business I worked for the majority of the time here, it was like trading education, which...
It's what you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean... Don't do that stuff. Don't do that stuff.
Not to do.
Well, I like checking out the platforms and seeing what they have. The stuff they were teaching, day trading and stuff. That's where I'm
very different. Very, very.
But I like seeing the platforms, like what do they have to offer and stuff like that. What do you guys think of my single stocks? I'm curious. $50,000 in Robinhood of single stocks. It's about 15% of my stock portfolio.
It's not even. It was so small. I'll be honest with you, Cable. I didn't even really. I didn't. Give
but I thought it was a little more. I was like,
this is the type of stuff that gets you in trouble.
And what we have found, right? Because we've played with options, we've played with individual stocks before. You can have a large, multiple 7-figure portfolio, and yet you might have $10,000 in one single stock, and the movement of that single stock will affect your mood over that day, month, week, quarter, right? And we recognize, is that really, really worth it? So we have kind of adopted, or I have adopted, I've only got 3 individual stocks that I hold in my portfolio, 2 that taught me a lesson, and 1 that I like, that I'm doing for some content stuff.
Interesting.
And what I've told myself is those are gonna be lifetime holdings. A good stock investor will tell you got to know the day you want to buy it, the day you want to sell it, and you want to have that pre-made.
Sure.
Warren Buffett will tell you my holding period is infinite. So if you're going to buy individual stocks, you should approach companies that you want to be holders in forever. And again, I'm just about, man, does it really, is the calories required to think about it actually worth it?
It's actually, I said the number wrong. It's at about 7%.
I don't think it's 15% of your total.
It's about 7%, and it's split evenly between 20 different stocks.
It'll burn you up. Because I had me and 2 buddies bought Apple in 2008.
It's a good time to buy Apple.
One of us kept it. The other 2 sold it. Because after I made, and I'll confess for myself, after I was up 300%, I sold it. Now the friend who kept it, I think he put $7,500 to $10,000 into it. It's worth like over $500,000, I think now.
Wild.
It's but that eats me up.
Yeah.
So even if you get it right, it will eat you up unless you just hold it forever. And so that's why I don't love the calories, because Bo was spot on, and I think it's because he's seen me do it, where my emotions were impacted. Even though that's such a small percentage of the total net worth, it impacts you, and that's just not healthy. I mean, I'm right now I have the same struggle with Tesla. That's the only real individual thing that I have a large holding in. And it's a wild roller coaster.
It is,
but it's and I would have never thought, because I bought like $25,000 in 2018, and it's I mean it's taken off. But now it's an emotional pull on you.
It's a fair assessment, though. You love the company more than you love the stock, and that's why you're a stockholder, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
you own a Tesla?
Yeah.
What Tesla? What model?
I've done a 3 back in 28. That's why I bought the stock. I have a Y. And hopefully in about 2 weeks, I'll have an X.
I was considering a Y in the future, but only because self-driving.
Yeah.
They're
I have it on.
Amazing.
Do you like the self-driving? Do you guys like the self-driving?
Okay. I know we're running on time, but I will tell you, I love
I'll
it.
talk forever.
I'm about to say he will go for the next 2.5 hours on Tesla.
I love my Tesla. That's why I bought the shares. I mean, I broke my own rule and
you
bought
love the company
stock
more than you love the stock.
because I was like, holy cow, this is going to change the world when I got my first Tesla. I only use the full self-driving when I go on road trips, like on the interstate, because I just enjoy, I actually physically enjoy driving my car around town. So I don't use it on the city streets. And I have full self-driving, but I only use it when I go on road trips. Like we're going to do a 401k presentation Sunday. Yep. And I'm driving, and we'll use the heck out of it, because you're rested when you get there. Because even though you're on duty, because it's beta. I'm not jumping in the back seat just because I turned it on, because that doesn't really work if anybody really knows. But you do feel much more relaxed because you're not on guard being defensive when it's driving you on the interstate.
It's the only reason I've considered changing a car from my 2019 Jeep Cherokee is self-driving. That's all I want. I don't care anything. I don't care about any
cars on the road.
I don't care about anything else when it comes to Tesla. I really don't. And I know you love Tesla, so no offense.
Right.
But self-driving.
It sounds pretty awesome, doesn't it?
Take me to the new studio, Tesla.
Yeah, that's it, right?
But it's beta, so you're not. It's not like. I mean, it's still going to ask you every minute or so. Hey, are you hanging out?
Love me.
Yes, it's not. you're not, like I said, you're not jumping in the back seat and it's driving you there. It's not.
I'm not
like
watching Money Guy on my little monitor.
They don't even
when
let
I'm
you do
driving
that.
to work.
Not yet. One day.
What's
That's
the
dream.
point?
That's the one. That's the one day. Every Tesla in America watching the Money Guy show. That's the goal.
That'd be great. So this has been a blast. I mean, I could go on forever like this, but I know we need to wind it down. But Caleb, you are a rocket ship. We're so thankful that you let us come out. If you have any questions, look, QuickBooks, there's so many things we covered. How you structure a 401k, how do you just hit us up. You know how to get in touch with us now. Lean into that and use that resource because you have an opportunity to create something pretty spectacular. And I just want to see you become the best version of yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate this. This conversation has been absolutely great, especially from the business perspective, because this has grown to a point where
it's a legitimate business now.
Apparently, it's like an actual business that exists. So I need to maybe I should treat it like a business.
And don't feel like you have to create the will all over. I think that's business owners want to be self-sufficient and do it. Lean into people who've actually been there, done that, so that you can actually use your creative energy and your forces not to come up with a better system for business, but actually to create content and build more revenue, get more employees, and have more success.
Beautiful.
For folks who have been living under a rock, have no idea who you are, and they want to know more about you, where can they find you? If they want to dial into what Caleb Hammer's doing, how do they do that?
You can search Caleb Hammer or Financial Audit on YouTube, TikTok, and probably other places.
That's the most Caleb thing ever. All right, guys. Thanks so much.